My name is Frank Morrison, and at 52 years old, I thought I understood loyalty. I was wrong. For 28 years, I've owned Morrison Construction in Columbus, Ohio. We're not the biggest outfit, but we're honest, reliable, and last year we cleared $3. $2 million with 18 guys who've been with me an average of 12 years each. I built this from nothing. Started with a pickup truck, a toolbox, and a $5,000 loan from my father in 1996. Helen and I married young. We lived above her parents' garage, dreaming of the house we'd build and the family we'd raise. Those dreams came true, or so I thought. We built our custom home on 5 acres in 2003, had Danny in 2003 and Sarah in 2005. For 3 decades, I've been the provider, the problem solver, the rock everyone depended on. When Helen's mother needed a new roof, I did it free. When my brother lost his job in 2008, I created a position for him. When the kids needed college money, I refinanced everything. I never asked for gratitude. Family takes care of family. That's how I was raised. But last month, everything I believed about loyalty came crashing down in a way that would make any man question what he'd worked for. If you've ever trusted the wrong people or given everything to family that didn't appreciate it, you'll understand why what happened next was absolutely necessary. The signs had been building for months, but I was too busy keeping everyone else's life together to notice mine falling apart. From the outside, we looked like the American dream. Helen and I should have been celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. 2 successful kids, a thriving business, living in our custom-built home that showcased everything Morrison Construction could do. Danny, 21, was finishing junior year at Ohio State studying business management. The plan was always for him to join the company after graduation, maybe take over when I stepped back. He was smart, charismatic, had natural leadership I never quite possessed. Sarah, 19, was at Miami University studying marketing. She'd always been Daddy's little girl, sitting on my lap during Sunday football, helping organize tools in the garage when she was small. Helen managed Morrison Construction's office 3 days a week, invoicing, scheduling, client communications. She was excellent at it. Organized, professional, clients loved her warmth. Her other 2 days were spent volunteering at the animal shelter and maintaining what everyone called the most beautiful garden in our neighborhood. We were the family others looked up to. The Morrisons had it figured out. But success breeds entitlement, especially in people who didn't sacrifice to build it. The first warning came last Christmas. We'd always done Christmas big, Helen insisted. Extended family gathered at our place, her parents, my brother Tom's family, her sister Janet with husband and 3 kids. Usually chaos in the best way. But last Christmas felt different. Danny and Sarah spent most of the day on phones, barely participating. When I asked Danny about spring semester plans, he shrugged. "We'll see, Dad. Things might be changing." Helen seemed nervous, almost guilty. She kept steering conversations away from family business and future plans. January brought the Riverside Shopping Center project, a $1, $8 million commercial build, the biggest contract Morrison Construction had ever landed. I was putting in 12-hour days, coordinating architects, managing subcontractors, ensuring every detail was perfect. This job could set us up for the next level. While I poured everything into securing our family's future, strange things started happening at home. Helen began taking phone calls in private, stepping onto the back porch or disappearing upstairs. When I'd ask who called, she gave vague answers. Just Janet or someone from the shelter. But Janet lived in Phoenix, and these calls happened at 10 p.m. our time, midnight in Arizona. Danny came home for spring break in March, but instead of our usual relaxed week of small projects around the property, he seemed agitated, distant. He spent most of his time locked in his room on video calls with people I didn't recognize, arguing about timing and fair shares. "Who was that?" I asked after overhearing one heated conversation. "Just study group stuff, Dad. Nothing important." Sarah was worse. She'd always called twice weekly from college, updating me on classes, friends, plans. Suddenly the calls stopped. When I'd call her, she sounded rushed, distracted. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" "Yeah, Dad, everything's fine. Just really busy with school stuff. Can we talk later?" Later never came. In April, I noticed an unusual withdrawal from our joint checking account, $7,500 in cash taken by Helen while I was on site. When I confronted Helen about the $7,500 withdrawal, she had a ready explanation. My mom needed help with medical bills. You know how proud she is. She didn't want to ask you directly. I knew Helen's mother. She was proud, but she also had excellent insurance and a comfortable pension from her 30 years teaching elementary school. Still, I nodded and let it go. Family helps family, right? But something nagged at me. I'd built a successful business by paying attention to details, and the details weren't adding up. 2 weeks later, I found another withdrawal, $3,200, also cash. This time, Helen claimed it was for Sarah's sorority dues and textbooks. When I called Sarah to ask how her new sorority was going, she sounded confused. Sorority? Dad, I'm not in a sorority. I told you that last semester. They're way too expensive. That night, I sat in my home office staring at our bank statements. Over the past 4 months, Helen had withdrawn $18,400 in cash, always while I was working, always with explanations that seemed reasonable until you looked closer. I called Helen's mother the next morning. "Frank, dear, how are you? Helen said you've been working yourself to death on that big project." "I'm fine, Mrs. Patterson. How are you feeling?" "Helen mentioned you had some medical expenses recently." "Medical expenses? Heavens, no, I'm healthy as a horse. Haven't seen a doctor in 6 months except for my regular checkup." My stomach dropped. I thanked her and hung up, my hands actually shaking. For 25 years, Helen had never lied to me about anything significant. Now she was lying about money, about family, about things that mattered. That weekend, while Helen visited her sister in Dayton, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through her personal belongings like a detective investigating a crime. In her dresser drawer, beneath old photo albums, I found a manila folder I'd never seen before. Inside were printed emails between Helen, Danny, and Sarah, along with what looked like legal documents. The emails made my blood run cold. "Dad's so focused on work, he has no idea what we're planning," Danny had written to his mother and sister. "The lawyer says we need to be patient, but I'm tired of waiting for my inheritance." Sarah's response was even worse. "I know, but we have to be smart about this. Dad built something valuable, and we deserve our fair share now, not when we're 50. Helen's reply chilled me to the bone. "Your father has always been selfish with money. He thinks because he built the business, he gets to control everything. It's time he learned that family decisions should be made by the whole family." The legal documents were consultation notes from Brennan and Associates, a law firm in downtown Columbus that specialized in estate planning and family business transitions. The notes discussed strategies for involuntary business succession and protecting family assets from single-owner control. They were planning to force me out of my own company. I sat on our bedroom floor reading about my family's betrayal in black and white. These weren't strangers trying to steal from me. This was my wife of 25 years and the 2 children I'd sacrificed everything to provide for. The worst part? The $18,400 Helen had withdrawn was apparently funding their legal fees. They were using my own money to pay lawyers to destroy me. I spent the next hour photographing every document with my phone, my hands steady despite the rage building inside me. 28 years of building something from nothing, and my own family wanted to take it away. The legal consultation notes revealed their full strategy. Danny would claim he had been promised 40% ownership when he graduated college. Sarah would argue she deserved 20% as compensation for emotional labor and future involvement in the business. Helen would demand 30% as my spouse and business partner. Together, they'd have 90% control of Morrison Construction. I'd become a minority owner in my own company. Their plan included forcing me to take a salary instead of owner's distributions, limiting my decision-making authority, and eventually pushing me into early retirement so Danny could modernize the business. The lawyer had even suggested they could claim I was becoming mentally unstable due to work stress, potentially triggering a competency evaluation. But the detail that made my blood boil was a handwritten note in Helen's careful script. "Frank has always been too controlling. He needs to learn that he can't just give us allowances from our family money anymore." Our family money? The money I'd earned working 70-hour weeks, bidding jobs at 5 a.m., dealing with difficult clients and weather delays. The money I'd reinvested in better equipment, reliable employees, and building a reputation that took decades to establish. According to my wife and children, none of my work mattered. They deserved equal ownership simply because they were related to me. I put the documents back exactly where I found them and walked downstairs to my workshop. I needed to think, and I always thought clearest when my hands were busy. But as I picked up my tools, a cold smile spread across my face. They wanted to play hardball with a contractor. They had no idea what they were up against. Monday morning, I called my accountant, Bill Hendricks, who'd been handling Morrison Construction's books for 15 years. "Bill, I need you to prepare complete financial documentation for the business. Everything, profit and loss statements, asset valuations, debt obligations, the works. And I need it done quietly." "Planning something big, Frank?" You could say that. Also, I want to restructure some things. Can you recommend a good estate planning attorney? Someone who specializes in protecting family businesses? Bill gave me the name of Margaret Wells at Peterson Wells and Associates. I called her immediately and scheduled a meeting for that afternoon. Meanwhile, I acted completely normal at home. When Helen returned from Dayton, I asked about her sister, listened to her stories about the grandkids, even helped her plant new roses in the garden. "You seem relaxed," she said, studying my face as we worked in the dirt together. "The Riverside project going well?" "Better than expected. Should be finished ahead of schedule and under budget." She smiled, but I caught something calculating in her eyes. Probably thinking about how much more money that would mean for their legal fund. That afternoon, Margaret Wells reviewed the documents Bill had prepared. Morrison Construction was worth approximately $2. $4 million in assets with $680,000 in outstanding debt. Net worth, $1.72 million. "Your family has no legal claim to ownership," Margaret confirmed. "The business is yours, built before marriage, and you've maintained separate business accounts. But if they're planning what you've described, they could make your life very difficult. What do you recommend? We get ahead of this. Restructure everything legally before they can file anything. Create an irrevocable trust. Establish clear succession planning, and document your intentions explicitly." "How long?" 2 weeks if we move fast. "Do it." Over the next 2 weeks, I lived a double life. During the day, I worked the Riverside project and met with Margaret Wells to restructure everything. Evenings, I played the role of devoted husband and father while my family plotted against me. Margaret worked fast. We created the Morrison Family Trust with me as sole trustee, transferred all business assets into it, and established ironclad succession planning that protected the company from any hostile takeover attempts. The beautiful part, everything was perfectly legal and documented. If my family wanted to challenge it, they'd have to prove fraud or incompetence. Impossible when I had Margaret's documentation showing sound business reasons for every decision. Meanwhile, Helen, Danny, and Sarah continued their secret meetings. I'd catch fragments of whispered phone conversations, notice them quickly changing subjects when I entered a room. They thought they were being subtle. Danny came home for a long weekend in early May, supposedly to help with yard work. Instead, I watched him take photos of our property, probably for asset valuation. He even measured the square footage of our workshop and garage. "Planning a home improvement project?" I asked, catching him with a tape measure near the barn. "Just curious about the property size," he said, flustered. "For a class project about real estate development." Sarah called more frequently now, but always with questions about the business. "How many employees did we have? What was our annual revenue? Did I ever plan to retire?" "Just interested in the family business," she'd say when I asked why she suddenly cared. Helen became bolder, suggesting I should think about succession planning and maybe bring the kids into decision-making more. "They're adults now, Frank. They deserve to know about their inheritance." I'd nod thoughtfully and promise to think about it all while knowing exactly what inheritance they'd be getting. The trap was set. All I needed was for them to make their move. Memorial Day weekend 2024. Both kids were home, and Helen had suggested we have a family meeting to discuss important matters. She claimed she wanted to talk about summer plans and college expenses. I knew better. Saturday evening after dinner, Helen asked me to join them in the living room. Danny and Sarah sat on the couch, looking nervous but determined. Helen took the chair across from me, a folder in her lap. "Frank, we need to talk about the future," Helen began, her voice taking on that tone she used when she thought she was being reasonable. "The kids are adults now, and they have concerns about their place in the family business." "What kind of concerns?" Danny cleared his throat. "Dad, I've been thinking about this for months. I'm graduating next year, and I want to join Morrison Construction, but I want to be a real partner, not just an employee working for you." "And what does real partner mean to you, son?" Sarah jumped in. "We think the business should be owned by the whole family, not just you. It's not fair that you make all the decisions about something that affects all of us." I leaned back in my recliner, the same chair where I'd read bedtime stories to both of them, helped with homework, celebrated their achievements. Now they were sitting across from me like a hostile board of directors. "Helen, you've been awfully quiet. What's your position on this?" She opened her folder, and I saw copies of the same legal documents I'd photographed weeks earlier. "We've consulted with an attorney, Frank. We know our rights. Danny deserves ownership for his future contributions. Sarah should have a stake in her inheritance. And as your wife and business partner, I should have equal say in major decisions." The moment had arrived. 28 years of sacrifice, and this was my reward. I sat quietly for a long moment, studying the three people who'd betrayed me. They expected anger, shouting, maybe threats. Instead, I smiled. So this is what you've been planning with Brennan and Associates. How long have you been meeting with them? The color drained from Helen's face. Danny and Sarah exchanged panicked glances. How did you, Helen started, know about your secret legal consultations? The $18,400 you've withdrawn from our joint account to pay for them? The emails you've been exchanging about forcing me out of my own company? I pulled out my phone and showed them the photos I'd taken of their documents. I've known for 6 weeks. Every meeting, every strategy session, every plan to steal what I built. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Danny tried to recover. Dad, it's not stealing. We're family. We deserve... Deserve? I stood up, and for the first time in this conversation, I let some real emotion show. You deserve what exactly? Danny, you've never worked a single day of construction in your life. Sarah, you've never shown any interest in the business until it became valuable. And Helen, I looked at my wife of 25 years. You think 3 days a week of answering phones makes you an equal partner in something I built working 70-hour weeks for 3 decades? Helen's voice turned cold. We're not backing down, Frank. The lawyer says we have a strong case. Really? What case is that? Force me to give you ownership of a business that legally belongs to a trust I established 3 weeks ago? The silence was deafening. That's right. Morrison Construction is now owned by the Morrison Family Trust. I'm the sole trustee with complete authority over all business decisions and asset distribution. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. You can't do that. I already did. Helen was frantically flipping through her legal documents. The lawyer said you couldn't just transfer assets to avoid family claims. Your lawyer was right if I'd done it to avoid legitimate claims. But I didn't transfer anything to avoid your scheme. I restructured for estate planning purposes after discovering my family was plotting against me. I walked to my desk and pulled out a thick folder Margaret Wells had prepared. Every transfer is documented and dated. Bank records show exactly when I discovered your first lie about your mother's medical bills. Security footage from our bank shows when you withdrew money for legal fees without my knowledge. Your own emails prove this was a coordinated conspiracy. Danny's confidence was crumbling. This isn't fair, Dad. I'm your son. I should inherit the business. You're absolutely right. You should inherit something. According to the trust documents, when I die, you and Sarah will each receive $50,000. Helen gets the house and $100,000. Sarah gasped. That's it? But the business is worth millions. The business will be donated to a scholarship fund for underprivileged kids who want to learn construction trades. Kids who actually appreciate opportunity instead of demanding it. Helen shot to her feet. You can't be serious. This is our family's future. No, Helen. This was our family's future before you decided to steal it. Now it's the future of kids who will work for what they get. The room erupted. Danny started shouting about lawyers and lawsuits. Sarah was crying, demanding to know how I could do this to my own children. Helen threatened divorce as if that scared me anymore. I waited for the noise to die down. Here's what's going to happen. Danny, you're no longer welcome at Morrison Construction. Find another career. Sarah, your college tuition payments stop immediately. Get student loans like everyone else. Helen, you're fired from the office. Clean out your desk Monday. Helen was on her phone within minutes calling their lawyer. I could hear her frantic voice from the kitchen. He moved everything into a trust. Can we challenge it? What do you mean it's legal? Danny paced the living room like a caged animal. This is insane, Dad. You're destroying our family over money. I'm not destroying anything over money, son. You destroyed this family the moment you decided to conspire against me instead of talking to me. Sarah tried a different approach, the same manipulation that had worked on me for 19 years. Daddy, please! I'm sorry we hurt you, but this is too extreme. We can work this out. For a moment, looking at my little girl with tears in her eyes, I almost wavered. Then I remembered her email calling me selfish, demanding her fair share of money she'd never earned. You want to work it out? Fine. Apologize publicly to your mother for dragging her into this scheme. Get jobs and pay back the $18,400 you stole for legal fees. Show me 1 year of actual work and respect, and we'll discuss your future with the company. We didn't steal anything, Danny snapped. That was Mom's money too. No, it wasn't. It was Morrison Construction's money that I pay your mother as salary. Money she embezzled to fund your conspiracy. Helen returned from the kitchen, her face pale. The lawyer wants to see all your trust documents. He says there might be ways to challenge this. I reached into my folder again and pulled out another document. Here's a copy of everything. Save yourself the consultation fee. Your lawyer will tell you the same thing mine told me. This trust is bulletproof. We'll fight this, Helen declared. We'll take you to court. With what money? You just lost your job, Danny's not getting any more support, and Sarah's college fund just disappeared. Good luck affording Brennan and Associates without my income. The reality was starting to sink in. For 25 years, they'd lived off my success without ever considering what would happen if that support disappeared. I looked at each of them one last time as a family. Here's what's going to happen. You have until Sunday night to decide if you want to be part of this family or continue being conspirators against it. What does that mean? Helen asked. It means you can accept that I built Morrison Construction, I own it, and I'll decide what happens to it. You can apologize for trying to steal from me, respect my authority as the head of this household, and maybe, we can rebuild some trust. Danny crossed his arms. And if we don't, then you can find somewhere else to live. All of you. Sarah's tears turned into sobs. You'd kick us out? Your own children? My own children tried to steal my life's work. My own wife lied to me for months while funding a conspiracy with my own money. At this point, I'm not sure what family means to any of you. Helen's voice turned vicious. You're going to regret this, Frank. I'll divorce you and take half of everything. I almost laughed. Half of what, Helen? The house belongs to the trust. The business belongs to the trust. My retirement accounts are separate assets from before our marriage. You can have half of our joint checking account, about $3,200 after your unauthorized withdrawals. The blood drained from her face as she realized what I was saying. That's right, divorce me and you'll get almost nothing. Stay married and you get to live in this house and receive an allowance from the trust as long as you behave yourself. An allowance? Danny sputtered. You're treating us like children. Children don't conspire to rob their parents, Danny. Children don't hire lawyers to steal family businesses. You want to be treated like adults? Start acting like adults who respect the man who sacrificed everything for your futures. The room fell silent except for Sarah's crying. You have 48 hours to decide. Sunday was the longest day of my life. I worked in my shop, staying busy while my family huddled together, frantically making phone calls and having whispered conferences. Around noon, I overheard Helen on the phone with her sister Janet in Phoenix. Can we stay with you for a while? Frank's lost his mind. What do you mean you can't afford it? Janet, this is an emergency! Apparently, being the generous brother-in-law who'd helped Janet's family through multiple financial crises over the years didn't buy much loyalty when the money stopped flowing. Danny called several friends trying to arrange somewhere to stay. I heard him explain to someone, my dad's being totally unreasonable about the family business. No, I can't just get my own place. I don't have any money saved. 21 years old and never held a real job. That was my fault for making life too easy for him. Sarah spent most of the day crying and trying to reach her college friends. Can I borrow some money for next semester? My dad cut me off. I know it's a lot to ask. By evening, the reality was sinking in. Helen found me in the garage, her face drawn and exhausted. Frank, please. Can we talk, just you and me? I set down my tools and looked at the woman I'd loved for 25 years. Go ahead. The lawyer says you're right. The trust is legal and we don't have grounds to challenge it. He wants $10,000 up front to even try, and he can't promise anything. Sounds about right. The kids are scared, Frank. They made a mistake, but they're still our children. Our children who are planning to have me declared mentally incompetent if the ownership grab didn't work. I saw that in the lawyer's notes too, Helen. She looked away, unable to deny it. So what's it going to be? Are you ready to be my wife again, or should I call a divorce attorney tomorrow? Sunday night at 11:47 p.m., Helen knocked on my bedroom door. I'd been sleeping in the guest room since our confrontation. Frank, can I come in? She looked like she'd aged 5 years in 2 days. We surrender, all of us. We're sorry, and we want to stay. Sorry for what specifically? She took a shaky breath. Sorry for conspiring against you. Sorry for lying about the money. Sorry for not appreciating everything you've sacrificed for this family. And the kids? They're downstairs. They want to apologize too. I followed her to the living room where Danny and Sarah sat looking like condemned prisoners. Gone was the entitled arrogance from Friday night. Danny spoke first. Dad, I was wrong. I let Mom convince me that we deserved part of the business without earning it. I'm sorry for being ungrateful. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry for calling you selfish, Daddy. You've given us everything and we threw it back in your face. I studied their faces, looking for sincerity. So what changed your minds? The fact that you can't afford to leave or genuine remorse? Helen answered honestly. Both. We realized how dependent we've become on your success and how wrong we were to take it for granted. Fair enough. Here are the new rules. Danny, you'll work construction this summer for minimum wage. If you prove yourself for 1 full year, we'll discuss your future with the company. Sarah, you'll get a part-time job and pay for your own expenses. I'll cover tuition only. And me? Helen asked. You can have your office job back, but at $15 an hour like any other employee. No more access to business accounts. You get an allowance for household expenses, which I'll monitor. Danny started to protest about minimum wage, but Helen cut him off. We accept all of it. One more thing. Any future attempts to undermine my authority, any lies about money, any conspiracy meetings, and you're all out permanently. Understood? They nodded like chastened children. The first month was tough for everyone. Danny started working construction at 6 a.m., learning what it meant to earn money with his hands. The first week, he came home exhausted and sunburned, complaining about everything from the heat to the heavy lifting. This is brutal, Dad. How did you do this for 30 years? Because I had to. Because I had a family to support and bills to pay. You'll get used to it. By the third week, something changed. Danny stopped complaining and started asking questions about the work. Real questions about technique and efficiency and customer satisfaction. For the first time in his life, he was genuinely learning something difficult. Sarah took a job at a local restaurant, working evenings and weekends. The first time she had to deal with a rude customer, she called me crying. Daddy, this lady screamed at me because her order was wrong, and it wasn't even my fault. Welcome to the real world, sweetheart. People aren't always nice when they're paying for service. She learned to handle difficult customers, manage her tips, and budget her money. Skills I should have taught her years ago. Helen was the most humbled by the changes. Going from being Mrs. Morrison, the boss's wife, to just another hourly employee was a shock to her system. She had to ask permission for time off, follow the same rules as everyone else, and earn her paycheck like any other worker. The most important change was in our family conversations. No more entitled demands for money. No more assumption that Dad would fix every problem. When Sarah's car needed repairs, she asked if I could recommend a mechanic she could afford, not demanding I pay for it. When Danny wanted new work boots, he saved up his own money instead of expecting me to buy them. Slowly, something I'd thought was lost forever began to return: respect. 3 months into the new arrangement, Danny approached me after work one evening. His hands were calloused now, his shoulders broader from the physical labor. Dad, can I ask you something? How do you decide which jobs to bid on? I've been watching you turn down work that seems profitable. It was the first time he'd asked about the business side instead of complaining about the physical demands. Show me the jobs you're talking about. We spent an hour going through recent bid requests. Danny had good instincts about obvious red flags. Clients who wanted unrealistic timelines, projects with unclear specifications, customers who seemed to be shopping purely on price. You're learning, I told him. The most expensive jobs are the ones you take from the wrong clients. Can you teach me more about this stuff? It was the first time in years my son had asked me to teach him anything. Sarah was changing too. When her roommate's parents offered to pay for a spring break trip to Cancun, Sarah politely declined. I can't afford it, and I'm not comfortable letting someone else pay for my vacation, she told me later. It doesn't feel right anymore. She was learning the value of things when she had to earn them herself. Helen's transformation was the most profound. Working as a regular employee instead of the boss's wife had stripped away her sense of entitlement. She started appreciating the other employees differently, understanding their challenges instead of looking down on them. One evening she found me in my office reviewing payroll. Frank, can I say something? Of course. I never understood before. How much pressure you were under, how many people depended on your decisions. I'm sorry I tried to take that away from you. It was the first genuine apology she'd given me in months. 6 months after our confrontation, Morrison Construction landed the biggest contract in company history, of $4 million. 2 million mixed-use development downtown. The profit margin would be substantial, enough to significantly improve everyone's financial situation. This was the test I'd been waiting for. The old Danny would have immediately started calculating his fair share. The old Sarah would have begun planning expensive purchases. The old Helen would have started making suggestions about how to spend money that wasn't hers. Instead, Danny approached me with genuine concern. Dad, this is a huge project. Do we have enough crew to handle it without compromising quality on our other jobs? What do you think? I think we should hire 2 more experienced guys and maybe promote Tommy Rodriguez to crew chief on the smaller residential projects. He's ready for more responsibility. I was impressed. He was thinking about the business operationally, not just financially. Sarah's reaction was even more surprising. When Helen mentioned the big contract at dinner, Sarah asked, "Will this help Dad hire more people?" I know he's been worried about keeping good workers. No demands for spending money. No assumptions about increased allowances, just concern for the business that supported our family. Helen's response was the most telling. Frank, I know this is a big opportunity, but also a big risk. Is there anything I can do to help make sure we handle it properly? She was offering to support my decisions instead of trying to influence them. That night I called Margaret Wells. I want to modify the trust documents. Second thoughts about the family provisions? Yes, they've earned a second chance. I restructured the trust to include meaningful inheritance provisions for all three of them. Not ownership of the business, but substantial financial security if they continued to respect the family hierarchy and work ethic. They'd proven they could change. Now I could afford to show some mercy. Thanksgiving 2024 was different from any holiday we'd had in years. For the first time in months, we felt like a real family again. Danny had been promoted to assistant crew chief after proving himself over the summer. Sarah was maintaining a 3.8 GPA while working 20 hours a week. Helen had become one of our most reliable employees. After dinner, I asked them to join me in the living room. A year ago, you tried to take something you hadn't earned. Today, I want to give you something you have earned. I handed each of them a copy of the revised trust documents. Danny, when I retire or die, you'll inherit Morrison Construction, but only if you've worked in the business for at least 5 years and proven you can run it responsibly. Until then, you'll earn increasing ownership shares based on performance. His hands shook as he read the documents. Dad, I don't know what to say. Say you'll continue to earn it every day. Sarah, you'll inherit our investment portfolio and the vacation property in Michigan. Not because you're my daughter, but because you've learned the value of hard work and financial responsibility. Tears streamed down her face. Thank you, Daddy. I promise I won't let you down. Helen, you'll receive the house and a substantial trust fund, enough to live comfortably for the rest of your life. But only if you remain the wife and partner you've become this year. Helen couldn't speak. She just nodded through her tears. Here's what you need to understand. 6 months ago, you were planning to steal from me. Today, you're inheriting more than you ever would have gotten through your conspiracy, because you earned it through respect and hard work. Danny spoke for all of them. We understand, Dad. We know how badly we screwed up, and we know how generous you're being now. The difference is, now you've proven you deserve it. As I write this, it's been 18 months since my family tried to steal my life's work. Morrison Construction just completed the downtown development project ahead of schedule and under budget. Danny is now a full crew chief, earning his promotion through competence, not family connections. Sarah graduated summa cum laude and is considering a master's degree, paying her own way. Helen and I renewed our wedding vows last month, not because we had to, but because we wanted to. We're building something stronger than what we had before. People ask me if I regret being so harsh with my family. The answer is no. The best thing I ever did for my children was refuse to reward their entitlement and force them to earn what they wanted. Danny told me recently, Dad, I understand now why you were so angry. We were trying to take something we never could have built ourselves. Now that I know how hard this business really is, I'm grateful you didn't let us destroy it. Sarah echoes the same sentiment. I'm a better person because you made me work for things. I appreciate everything more when I earn it myself. The revenge I planned was to cut them out completely, to punish them for their betrayal by taking away their futures. But the revenge I got was better. I got my family back, improved and grateful for what they'd learned. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't destroying someone. It's refusing to enable their worst impulses until they become the people they should have been all along. My family tried to take my business through conspiracy and manipulation. Instead, they learned the value of honest work, earned respect, and discovered that loyalty is something you give, not something you demand. Morrison Construction is stronger than ever. My family is stronger than ever. And I sleep better at night knowing that when I do pass this business on, it will be to people who truly understand what it's worth.